But Walshy goes off quite late in the game. Surprised to see him go off?
He was struggling. I think it was fitness and injury that, and it was the best thing for him to get a pair of fresh legs on. He was struggling at the time. He'd had a lot of injuries that season. He was injured when I turned. People like to say, I'm sure he didn't play the United game, and he was coming back. He'd got real problems with his knees, and sometimes I never knew how he kept on playing, but he did, and that's a credit to Steve, the determination that he had to put himself on there, week in, week out, when he was probably not 100%, and an absolute warrior on the pitch. Great guy to play next to as well.
That probably wasn't the biggest. I mean, just before that, on 101 minutes, I think Mark Robbins had come on for Scott Taylor. I guess, was that tactical?
That's something I've never asked, never knew about, and you would think maybe a fresh legs that could do a job in Scott's position, but Martin's probably thinking penalties at the time when he does something like that. Robbo at the end of the day was a goal scorer. An absolute that's just what he did. He got on the end of things and he put the ball away very tidily. And you would have fancied him to put his hand up and go and take a good penalty. So I would imagine that was the thought process behind that.
Well, those two substitutions, you could probably you could understand those two. You had I think we have spoken about this before. I know we have. And you had absolutely no idea that this was going to happen. And I've got to say, we've spoken about Kevin Poole a couple of times, and I've got on my notes here, underrated as a keeper massively.
Massively. Poole, we called him the cat. I mean, he was slightly shorter in height than most, keepers, or what you would expect a keeper's height, but he was one of the most agile keepers I've ever played with. He's got me out of the poop many a time. You loved having him behind you. He was a lovely lad. And again, I talked about the back four, but he was the safety valve behind it. And he was amazing. And I can remember, I can see watching the final back, he was crestfallen when he was taken off, and really disappointed for the lad, to be honest on that. Like I say, such a nice lad. He kept us in the game with the Undar save.
That save, it's
unbelievable.
Save of the game.
There's a lot of keepers, in the Premier League that wouldn't make that save today. But that was his agility, great on his feet and his hands and what have you. And the thing was that we'd done a lot of penalties in training, and Zelko was fantastic. One, daunting size, and he just filled the goal. And he did save penalties really, really well in training, and the gaffers obviously calculate that. And it's a massive call. If it goes to penalties and he doesn't perform as well as you think he might do, straight away it's like, why did you do that? Obviously, it never got that far, but, it was, like I say, a tough call, and probably got to be one of the biggest substitute calls you've ever seen to do that at that point in such a, like we say, one of the, the most expensive games on the calendar, in the world football. So it was a real big call, but
it would have been interesting to see what would have happened if we hadn't got the free kick and we hadn't got time to make the substitution.
Yeah.
But he was 6'7", I think he was, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. I know in his house he had the doors made bigger. He had tradesmen come in and made the doors made bigger. So, because I know Muzzy bought the house off him further down the line, and he looked like dwarf going through these doors into his lounge and what have you. So,
like off Game of Thrones, opening the music door.
Absolutely, yeah. So it was a big call, and I think you'll probably say now that on the commentary, they actually felt it sort of stunned the Palace players. They sort of like, what's going off here, kind of thing.
Yes, and I mean, again, Ron, keep going back to Ron Atkinson, but he was the guy that was doing the co-commentary. And it said to him that he said Kevin Poole always struck him as a good stopper and reaction. I think his words were reaction keeper. But it may, I think his words were maybe he sees Zelko as filling the goal more, which is exactly what you've said there. And we joke about Zelko, and I do remember one game. I think it might have been Bolton, and we lost. Conceded 2 goals because he was doing, it was like Dracula. He didn't come out for crosses, but he went on to play for AC Milan and won tons over there. So fair play to the guy. Now he said allegedly to Martin O'Neill said that he said, "Don't worry, boss, I'll win it for you."
He did. He
comes
was a
on.
very loud character.
Yeah.
Very big personality, Zelko.
But that confidence again, that's what you want.
Yeah.
You know what somebody coming on saying, like, are you sure you want to put me on, boss?
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
I mean, like I say, he was a larger than life, not just in his physicality size, but he was a very bubbly, loud character in the changing room. Always positive, always quite funny, and he did say that, and he would have gone on there absolutely 100% believing that,
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, for him, I suppose he's in a no lose situation. Keeper's always on the on the back foot kind of thing. So it was his to either gain the glory or if not, Palace scored a few good penalties, but you say it never got to that, and it changed round in an instant.
Paul's asking here, and I think you kind of touched on it, how was Kevin Poole feeling after being subbed? I guess he understood, he's professional.
He did, and I think if you watch the video, you can sort of see his, I think crestfallen's a good word. He just looked a bit nonplussed, a bit like, I've just played 19 minutes or whatever it is. Pulled us out. I've had a great season. Well, he did when I was there. Certainly when he was behind me for those last games on the run-in, he was absolutely amazing. And to get subbed at that final moment, I'm not sure what he thought.
He didn't look angry at all, in fairness.
No, he wouldn't have done. He was such a nice lad, such a lovely bloke. He wouldn't have done that. He wouldn't have let his emotions spill over. But I would have thought he would. I would have thought he hit it well, and I thought the disappointment would have been like epic.
A little bit of relief as well that he sat down thinking, well, if they lose this now, it's not my fault.
I think I was hoping to get subbed at the same time.
Well, thankfully you weren't, because like I say, that sub that and sort of Colin Hill coming on at the same time.
Yeah,
happened when I think was it Steve Claridge that was bundled over.
Yeah.
And the free kick came in from we've mentioned him enough. Gary Parker took the free kick. I believe it was, all the way over to the far side of the box where there was a little Julian Watts standing who raised above and got the nod back into the box. Something that you've been practicing on the training field?
Definitely not. It was just right place at the right time. And I think it's quite interesting that Steve had been bundled over and he actually wasn't in any decent position as the ball was coming towards myself. And that's why he sort of just ambled into this big pocket of space as the ball bounced down to him. I've been asked quite a few times if I actually did head the ball, but sadly enough, I've actually slow-moed it, and you can see that we're both absolutely knackered. I think it's George and Dar. We're both absolutely out on our feet, and we go up, and it's like the laziest leap of all time, and we sort of head it together, and you can see this like counter spin where we've both sort of met it at the same time. So I am going to take some credit for that. Even though that's what I'm leading up to. But assists weren't a thing in those days, which is really, really unfortunate. But it just landed down perfect for Steve. And like I say, he hit it, and I think everyone on the pitch just froze and watched it. And I know definitely Nigel Martin was so wrong-footed.
Oh, you can see that. You can see his body's going one way.
Yeah, he's a statue, and he just watches it, go in and not particularly at any great pace.
No, and of course the classic line of "This could be the winner for Leicester City." It is.
Yeah. And I remember the celebrations. I've seen those a few times, obviously, and I just remember being absolutely knackered and like no energy left, legs gone, lungs, caving in. And I thought to myself, there was about 5 minutes left, and I was really panicking about, how well I was going to last this last 5 minutes. Yeah. And it turns out there was about 5 seconds left. So we were all okay in the end.
You were up at the right end of the pitch, but I've never seen Stevie Claridge run as fast as he did when he celebrated that goal. No, Could you catch him?
I eventually did, but only because he got rugby tackled, and it was the quickest turn of pace he ever made all season. But he was grabbed hold of by someone slightly quicker, and we all jumped on him, and it was just like a euphoric feeling. It was, you thought about the run up to the game, the games we'd played, get there, going one down in the final, digging ourselves and getting back in, and then scoring that. It was just, best day in football for me ever. Obviously, you know, I've not surpassed that at all. It was just an amazing feeling. And then, like I say, you switch back into blimey, we've got to see this game out. But then, you know, it virtually lasted a few seconds and the whistle went, which was like the biggest relief of my career.
I was going to say it was virtually from kickoff, wasn't it? And the whistle blew.
Thanks for watching. These videos are tremendous. You'd better like them too, or I'll be back.
The TalkSport Fan Network is the ultimate on-demand destination for the UK's best fan-led football podcasts,
including Leicester Till I Die, independent analysis and reaction for the Fox's faithful.
The TalkSport Fan Network.
Unbeatable club-dedicated content created by the fans, for the fans.
Follow the podcast on the TalkSport Fan Network.